follow the rules but learn to look outside of the box. Huh? Hey, what's up guys? I'm Joseph Ryan Bati, your tech warrior from Limang Siglo. Today we're going to talk about proper framing and composition. But before we start this, I would like to say that this is solely based on our experience from the interviews and other documentaries that we do.
By the way, framing is the presentation of visual elements in an image. Or in other words, basically everything your camera captures. And then the composition is the placement of the subject in relation to other objects. Your subject, the background, your foreground, everything in the frame, the placement of it, and how you present it. That's the composition.
Now let's go to the first rule. First rule is that there are no rules. Just kidding. First rule is the rule of thirds. Rule of thirds is just like this on my shirt. As you can see, there is a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's a 3 by 3 grid lines. And most cameras does have this on their setting. Enable it. Now you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 1, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now that you have enabled the grid lines, this will serve as a guide for you to follow. This is very helpful as you have full controls in inputting and removing this grid line. So be mindful if you are doing live stream just like us. Before you start live streaming, like you set your cameras, your lighting, your audio, and be sure to remove the grid lines and other menu button before starting a live stream. Because on camera switcher, if you forget to remove that settings, that menu button and the grid lines, it will show in your live feed. So be mindful of that. Theoretically, as what they say, this rule of thirds draws attention to your audience. The idea of rule of thirds is align your subject to these lines, as it theoretically suggests that it draws more attention than putting the subject elsewhere or in the middle. Just kidding. But it does depends on what you do. And yes, I'm not actually following what just I say, because in my defense that this is a talking head and I'm just the subject in here.
Then again, the rule of thirds, it gives more a starting point, and when you have your subject in the rule of thirds, everything will follow. First is that your subject is in the thirds of these lines. Eventually everything will follow. You're gonna see this object on the background, and then you'll see the bigger picture, which is the background, like, oh, this guy is shooting on churches.
Now with that I mentioned, if the interview is facing on the right and the other is on the left, and that is on the next rule, which is lead room and headroom.
Lead room is the space in front of your subject that implies that your subject is interacting to something or someone.
Just like in our interview shoot, we have a wide shot and a tight shot of each, the interviewee and the interviewer.
Our subject is facing 45 degree at the right side of the frame, and there is a space right in front of the subject, and on the other hand, the interviewer is facing the 45 degree to the left and also has a space. I say this is actually can be a vice versa thing. Either your interviewer is at the left and then your interviewee is at the right side of the frame.
And then let's go to the headroom. The headroom is the space between the subject's head to the upper frame. It is a space, yes, another space another blank space maybe, but I don't gonna write your name. This is a good use for talking heads like this that has a lot of mistake, and I just zoom it in and zoom it out without cropping your head. Always allot a space because you have to zoom it in, zoom it out, zoom it in, zoom it out. And the last in our list is the depth of field. Depth of field is the distance of your subject to your background. You can achieve this depth of field if you have a lower aperture, just like this in this Canon 80D with a Canon 50mm 1.8. It's at its lowest 1.8 that allows you to have this blur background. As what I've said earlier, it depends on the distance of the subject to your background. Now, just like this, I am just quite near on my background, so it's not enough blurry in my background because the subject, which is me, is just as near in the background. The shallow depth of field separates your subject to the background. It puts all the focus on your subject, making your background becomes blurry. You have this narrow depth of field wherein all of the focus are on the background. So I say this is quite on the part of narrow depth of field because I do wanted to show this background. No, I just have a limited space. I can, if only I can move forward and have my background as blurry. I chose these 3 rules because these are the things that we usually follow in our production, in our interviews and talking heads and live streaming. There are more rules out there that photographers and cinematographers follow, but for me these are at least the basic. Some other articles says there are 7 rules. Some says there are 20. Yes, I don't deny that there are a lot more rules to follow, but fortunately these are mainly what we follow, and these are, I say it's quietly the basic thing to follow. These are the quite the easy rules to follow. These rules are meant to just follow for you to have a guide, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to always follow this, because there are times that you have to really break this and do it on your own and be creative and follow your imagination and be creative. I've been studying this for some quite time and came up with these rules, and I just list it down to 3. Well, so far from most of this, yes, actually it does make sense, but I did said that you can follow these rules, and at the same time you can break the rules and you can create your own or recreate these rules and use it to your advantage. These are some guides that you have to follow, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to always follow these rules. You are free to do some experiments and learn from them. If you feel that you did commit some mistake, and learn from them. This is Joseph Ryan Bati, your tech warrior from Limang Siglo, saying, study, and learn from your mistakes, and accept the fact that you're going to commit a mistake, but do learn from them. Maximize what you have.